Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another video and today's topic is this: Babylon the Harlot and Satan. It's time to connect the dots. This won't be the first time that I have addressed the identity of Babylon in the book of Revelation, and it won't even be the first time that I addressed the connection of Babylon to Satan. But today I decided to try to do a shorter video that is just basically a rundown of it so that those two topics aren't just caught in the midst of other larger topics, because these topics themselves are really important to understand. Because in my opinion, the book of Revelation tells us the identity of the Satan that is being referred to in the vast majority of the book of Revelation, especially if we go to the end of the book of Revelation, and I'm going to show you why I believe that. In the meantime, if you hear like a weird banging sound in the background, that's my guinea pigs drinking their water. They keep drinking it and they won't stop, and I usually record using a headset and mic, which kind of drowns out other noises, but someone in the comments last week said that mic makes a crackling noise, which I never noticed when I listened, but I'm trying a different mic today. So if this one is equally bad or better or worse, let me know, because I'm trying to figure out which one that I should be using. But anyway, let's get started. Contrary to popular opinion of today, Babylon of Revelation has nothing to do with any city or entity that is around in the 21st century. Babylon is not referring to the United States. It's not referring to the United Nations. It's not referring to the EU. It's not referring to any number of things that you can see in our newspaper headlines. And I know that a lot of people try to interpret the book of Revelation through newspaper headlines, but friends, that is not the way to do it. The way that we need to interpret the book of Revelation is by interpreting it through the scripture. Let's start with Revelation 17, 4 through 6. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery: Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Now, there are a few things that I want you to remember, to keep in the back of your mind as we are going through the rest of these passages. And the first one of those is that it says that in her hand was a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. What nation was the nation that God accused of sexual immorality, of being unfaithful to him? That was Old Covenant Israel. Okay? Now, here it says, and I saw let's go back here. Babylon the Great. Another thing that you will see in these passages is that Babylon is continually referred to as the great city. You will see it over and over and over again. The great city, the great city. It's another important phrase to remember as we're studying this. But now, and it does say mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. And Old Covenant Israel, again, was guilty of being unfaithful to God. Verse 6 says, and I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. So keep that in mind. What city was drunk with the blood of the saints? What city was drunk with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus? A little later in Revelation 18, verse 24, it goes on to say, and this is still talking about Babylon, and here you can see the context. It says the doom of Babylon. So we are still referring to Babylon, the great city in the book of Revelation. And there it says in 18:24, and in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all who have been slain on earth. I know that a lot of people will still try to say this is going to be a future event where some great nation, not really great, I should say, abominable nation is going to go and is going to murder all of the Christians. And that is really a huge topic that people talk about. Like someone even just commented the other day about Obama ordering 30,000 guillotines or something during his presidency. And I heard about that back when that happened. I was never able to find anything to independently verify it. But the fact remains that we can look right to Scripture to find out exactly who this was talking about. And we can do that by going right to the words of Jesus in Matthew 23, verses 31 to 38. This is when he was admonishing the Pharisees in the temple. He said, "Thus you witness against yourselves that you are sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your fathers. You serpents." I want you to take note of the word serpents here, okay? "You brood of vipers, how are you to escape being sentenced to hell? Therefore I send you prophets and wise men and scribes, some of whom you will kill and crucify, and some you will flog in your synagogues and persecute from town to town, so that on you may come all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. Truly I say to you, all these things will come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, that city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate." So going back to Revelation 17, in verse 6, "And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus." And here we have Jesus admonishing the Pharisees in his generation and telling them that all of the blood shed on earth was going to come on them. Let's also go to Revelation 18 that I also just read, and it says, "In her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all who have been slain on earth." So they are being found guilty for the blood slain on all the earth. And what did Jesus say to them? "On you may come all the righteous blood shed on earth." So again, we don't need to go to newspaper headlines or to make wild speculations about some future nation that is going to do these things. These things happened in Jesus's generation. He is talking to the Pharisees that were standing right in front of him, and he was telling them that on you is going to come this blood. All these things will come upon this generation. He was talking to the men who were standing there with him. He was talking to the men of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is Babylon. Old Covenant Jerusalem, first century Jerusalem is Babylon, not the Jerusalem of today. The Jerusalem of today is far removed from biblical Jerusalem. I'm referring to Old Covenant Jerusalem. Old Covenant Jerusalem was Babylon in the book of Revelation, and I think it's very clear to see that. Now, before I get into the connection between Babylon and Satan, or we can say the Satan, or a Satan, let's read some more passages from Revelation that tells us some more about Babylon that will reiterate what I have been, explaining to you about the things that Babylon was guilty of, which were the same things that Jesus told Jerusalem, the Pharisees, that they were guilty of. And we're also going to reiterate how it is called the Great City over and over again, because this is going to really, matter. Well, of course it matters. It's in the Bible, but hopefully it will catch your attention in just a minute. So Revelation 14:8. Another angel, a second, followed, saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who made all nations drink the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality." So we are back to this accusation of sexual immorality that we know that Old Covenant Jerusalem was accused of, that they were guilty of. They weren't just accused, they were guilty of it. And it says, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. And Old Covenant Jerusalem it certainly did fall, didn't it, in AD 70. That is why, I tell people all the time, the book of Revelation is not written about our future. The book of Revelation is written about the destruction of Jerusalem and the judgment of Old Covenant Israel. Revelation 17:18. And the woman that you saw, and this is still referring to Babylon, and the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. So we have one of these references to the great city, and it's referring to Babylon. Revelation 18:10. They will stand far off in fear of her torment and say, Alas, alas, you great city, you mighty city Babylon, for in a single hour your judgment has come. So here we have another reference to Babylon being the great city. Revelation 18:16. Alas, alas, for the great city. Again, context over here shows you this is still about Babylon. For the great city that was clothed in fine linen, in purple and scarlet, adorned with gold, with jewels, and with pearls. Another reference to the great city here. Revelation 18:21. Then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, So will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence and will be found no more. First of all, we have that reference to the great city, Old Covenant Jerusalem. It was thrown down. It was made desolate. And it never became again what it once was. Revelation 18:2. And he called out with a mighty voice, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable beast. So again, not only do we have a reference to Babylon being fallen, but it is Babylon the Great, aka the great city. Revelation 18:19. And they threw dust on their heads as they wept and mourned, crying out, Alas, alas, for the great city, context, Babylon, where all who had ships at sea grew rich by her wealth, for in a single hour she has been laid waste. Now, Revelation 11:8. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city that symbolically is called Sodom and Egypt, where their Lord was crucified. Where was Jesus crucified? He was crucified in Old Covenant Jerusalem, wasn't he? First century Jerusalem. It says it was the great city that was symbolically called Sodom and Egypt. Every other reference that we have heard to the great city is referring to what? To Babylon, which is another symbolic name for Jerusalem. And in fact, I noticed that in the New Living Translation, they came right out and said, their bodies will lie in the main street of Jerusalem. And this was talking about the two witnesses. Very interesting historical account of what some people might believe were the two witnesses in the book. Oh my word, I'm reading it now to my children. The Destruction of Jerusalem. So here we have yet another connection to the great city. Now it's symbolically called Sodom and Egypt, but it tells us right out that the great city is where the Lord was crucified. I'm sorry, but you cannot get more clear than Jerusalem being the identity of Babylon. Because of this clue, this is certainly not the only clue, but this should just completely seal the deal, in my opinion, for everyone who's wondering. Now, hopefully, after establishing that Jerusalem was Babylon, and there are other verses, actually, more verses about the blood of the prophets being shed there, but I've gone over that in other more extensive videos on this topic. I just wanted to cover it quickly here. But now I want to go over what I believe is a very clear connection to Satan and Babylon, or we might call it Jerusalem. And then who is Jerusalem representing? Old Covenant Israel. So here we have Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them come and bow down before your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you. Now again, many of the people who like to put today's newspaper headlines in to the Bible, they will say that this is referring to like Ashkenazi Jews, or that this is referring to people like the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers. I'm probably going to get my video banned by saying this, but that's not what this is talking about. Those who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie, those were the Jews who rejected their Messiah. They were the ones who said that they were Jews and did not lie, and who lied about being Jews because they crucified their Messiah. They were those of the synagogue of Satan. Remember, what does the Satan mean? Satan is not a proper name. It's a noun. It's a common noun. It means accuser. It means adversary. So whenever you see Satan capitalized, it really doesn't need to be capitalized because it was never someone's name. The Satan was actually referred to many different people and spiritual entities throughout the entire Bible. It was never just about one particular being. And here it's telling us that those of the synagogue of Satan are those who say they are Jews and are not. Those were the unbelieving Jews. They were part of the synagogue of Satan. Now, so this was, very close to the beginning of Revelation. I want to show you one very close to the end of Revelation. And he sees the dragon, that ancient serpent. Now, do you remember the serpent reference that I told you to remember? Here we have the dragon is being called that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan. Go back to Matthew 23. You serpents, you brood of vipers. Is that, relevant? Well, I think that it is. But let's continue on because there's more. Who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the pit, and shut it and sealed it over him, so that he might not deceive the nations any longer, until the 1,000 years were ended. After that he must be released for a little while. So that he might not deceive the nations any longer. Okay, so actually I haven't pulled this one up, but Revelation 12:9, I believe, also talks about the dragon deceiving. Okay. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, there's that serpent reference again, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. So here we hear that the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, is the deceiver of the whole world. And then in Revelation 20, verse 3, we have the devil and Satan, and so that he was bound so that he might not deceive the nations any longer. So Satan was the one deceiving the nations, and we also see that from Revelation 12, verse 9. But let's look at this verse. Revelation 18:23, that is referring to the doom of Babylon. So we're still talking about Babylon here. What does it say? And the light of a lamp will shine in you no more, and the voice of bridegroom and bride will be heard in you no more. For your merchants were the great ones of the earth, and all nations were deceived by your sorcery. So we have Revelation 12:9 that talks about Satan deceiving. Let me see if it was. Is it nations here? This says the whole world. Okay, so this says the whole world, but many times these things are used interchangeably. So we've got Revelation 12:9. I'm actually going to see which world it even says. I'm just curious. Oikumene, which would be the Roman Empire. Okay, so that's what is used. So Satan deceived the whole world in Revelation 12:9, and then in Revelation 20, verse 3, Satan was bound so that he would not deceive the nations any longer. And then, bam, here we are told in Revelation 18:23 that Babylon is the one who deceived all the nations. In my opinion, This makes a very strong case for the identity of Satan, at least in the book of Revelation, especially regarding this point, regarding the Satan that was thrown into the lake of fire. I believe it was referring to Old Covenant Jerusalem, or you could say Old Covenant Israel. I think it's very clear. And remember that the harlot, she wore robes of red and purple. And what colors did the high priests wear in the Old Covenant? They wore robes of, I believe, red, purple, and gold, and blue. And it does say that she had gold too. She had gold also. So that's also very interesting. But yeah, in my opinion, if we go by Revelation 18 and compare it to Revelation 12 and Revelation 18, and then also throw in Revelation 3 about the synagogue of Satan, I think it's clear that in this case, the Satan, the accuser, the adversary that was thrown into the lake of fire was Old Covenant Israel. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below. And if you like my work and would like to become a channel member, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. Or you can just click on it right on my channel page. And I hope you have a great day.